By the way, my last name is DiFilippo.
Thank you. I was going to ask. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Look what it says right here. How to pronounce DiFilippo. Holdridge.
Holdridge DiFilippo. Vicky Holdridge DiFilippo.
I know the order.
Okay.
I was just going in reverse.
Yes. Yeah, you got it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Flowdown. This is a podcast featuring conversations with Three Rivers students, faculty, and staff. My name is Andrew Marvin. I teach English at Three Rivers, and my guest today is Victoria Holdridge DiFilippo. Vicky, for short,
That's right.
is a English language teacher, a first-year English teacher, a mother, daughter, wife, traveler, and runner. Vicky, I'm so excited that we get to hang out finally.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, good. I'm so glad that one of us is. That's just kidding. I am too. It's great to see you. I said to you, like in the fall last year, that I feel like Vicky and I never get to hang out because we're on separate floors.
That's right. And that is how it is. People have different teaching schedules. And so here we've been teaching together for 10 years, and it's not too often that we get to sit down for chit-chat.
I know. This is exactly the thing, because I frequently, at this point in our careers, I forget that we started at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because I was an adjunct in 2012, and then I started full-time in 2014. And I think you had just started full-time in 2014 also.
Fall of 2014. Yep, that's right.
So we've both been here full-time 10 years.
You got it.
I'm not a mathematician, as you know.
I can always remember how long I've been here because it was a couple of days before my first semester teaching here that I realized that sure enough, I was about to have a baby. And so my first conversation with our department chair, really my first sit-down conversation was, hey, turns out I'm going to need some maternity leave.
Wow.
Didn't realize that was going to happen. And so He's 9, and that means I've been here for 10 years. Yep.
Wow.
Easy
Amazing.
to remember. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have, not that I was paying particularly close attention to your state of pregnancy, but I don't remember you being pregnant back then.
Yep.
So you had just started.
I had just started, and then he was born during the spring break, the spring semester.
And so how does maternity leave work when you're a community college employee? Do you get, we obviously are a supportive community, so...
Yeah, I had the time that I needed, and so he was born during the spring break, and I was able to be out until the summer, and so that worked out great because then I had, a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. It was a little tricky being a new teacher because I was still figuring things out myself, and so all of a sudden to, have things prepared to describe to an adjunct was tricky, but we worked it out, and everyone got through.
Yeah,
and all was well.
I hate to say congratulations 9 years too late, but congratulations on the birth of your son.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if I said that at the time. I do want to think back to that time when we first started, though, because since we followed similar paths in terms of starting at the same time, and I don't know about you, but my own sort of self-perception or self-confidence as an educator, but also as just like a member of the community, I feel like for so long, I felt like the youngest faculty member campus-wide. Mm-hmm. And it's only in the past year or two, since getting tenured and getting some promotions and stuff, that I'm starting to feel a little bit more like I'm not the newest little kid here.
Yeah, I feel that way too. It has taken a while to feel that way. And all of a sudden when new people ask a question or something, I think, oh, I do know how to answer that. Maybe I have been here for a bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. When you first started, did you have the sense of imposter syndrome that I felt? What was it like in your first year of teaching? Did you have teaching experience before that?
Yes, I had plenty of teaching experience, and so I felt confident teaching English to English language learners. I felt confident about that. I am the only teacher here at Three Rivers that teaches English language learners. And so I did, and I do still feel a little bit in my own world there. I feel confident with my classes and my students, but it did take a little bit of time to feel confident with how the community college worked, and I didn't really know who to ask those questions to just because I felt kind of like a department of one at that point. But I am within the English communication department, as you know, and so I feel much better about that now, of course.
Yeah, that's good. Did you have a sense of, your perception of yourself in terms of gradually starting to feel like maybe you do know what you're doing a little bit. How has that, because again, we're talking about, for both of us, 10 years going from just starting teaching full time to now we're both tenured full professors, not to brag, statements of fact. But I feel like only now, like I said, only now am I starting to feel like maybe I do know a little bit about what I'm doing. Not that I don't still try to maintain awareness of everything I don't know.
Sure, there's always more to learn, and that's what makes teaching exciting. Even if you're teaching the same class semester after semester, it never gets boring because you're learning new things and trying things out. So, yeah, we're always learning new things, but it is very nice to feel like we know what we're doing a bit.
Yeah, yeah, and it feels like a degree of just a little bit more ease, I think, because for me, I think you were tenure track when you started, right?
Correct.
And I was on an annual appointment for 4 years. So every year it was like, did he do a good enough job to bring him back? And that was really stressful.
Definitely.
But yeah, now there is just a little bit of a sense of ease.
Yes. And you can focus on the teaching and focus on the things that you need to be focusing on rather than worrying about am I going to be here again next year?
Right. And feeling like an established member of the community where, and I hope you feel this way too, because I think you should, feeling like I am somebody who is known in some small way for doing good work and being an established, trusted person.
One exciting thing that's been going on in the English language world in Norwich lately is that there's just a ton of new English language learners wanting to come to class. And so my classes are now totally full and we're adding more sections, and that's awesome. And it's not only here, it's also at the local adult ed and new nonprofit organizations popping up to fill the need. And even at the Otis Library, the public library, they're offering conversation classes for English language learners because they're just literally lined up at the door waiting for classes. And I feel as if I have something to contribute to those efforts. For example, recently I've done volunteer teacher training at Otis Library to help recruit new volunteers to be able to teach classes. And it feels good to be able to use my skills and experiences to help the greater community. So that's been exciting.
That's really good to hear, because I feel like for a while, because when you started, you weren't teaching composition.
Right.
I feel like that was a relatively recent development, and I felt like that happened because of a threat to the English language learning.
During COVID, my numbers went down, and then it took them forever to recover. And so in order to meet course load, I had to start teaching an English 1010 course. And at first I did it because I needed to. I needed to, have enough classes to teach. And then, you know what? It turns out I really love it. And so even though now I don't even necessarily need to be teaching it, I really enjoy it. And I feel as if it informs my teaching ESOL and the other way around as well. It's a really great combination. So I'm really happy with it. And I feel like it made me a better teacher. So like I said, we're always learning new things.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I wanted to hear more about what was it like transitioning to teaching comp, and how has it informed the classes that you were hired to do, quote unquote.
So the things that I was able to bring to the 1010 class, even from the beginning, having never taught it before, were some of the similarities were that these are usually new students who are here for the first semester or so. And so that's similar to a lot of my English language learners. So teaching them how to navigate academic college life, that's the same. And so I feel like I had a lot to bring to the table there. And then what I learned for my ESOL classes is that I learned more about the types of papers, the types of research a person would have to do in English 1010. And so now I could better prepare my English language learners to be ready to take that course. And actually now we have a really exciting new course here which is English 1010 with ESOL support. It's 6 credits. And so students get that English 1010 credit that they need, but they also have extra time together with me in the class for those special, unique English language sorts of things that we have to sort out. So it's a really great course, and it has been filling the past 2 semesters. So I think there's been a need for it.
Wow, I feel like I almost didn't even know about that, because that sounds, it's different from the English 1010 with the 0910 workshop.
Correct.
This is specifically for English language learners.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool. I want to hear more about the English language learning stuff in a minute, but I always forget to ask the path to Three Rivers question.
Okay.
Which is, what led you to Three Rivers?
Yeah, great. So when
in as much detail as you care to
share. So when I first graduated, I studied anthropology.
Okay.
And because I liked learning about different cultures and different people. And then, after graduation, I wondered what one might do with that degree. And so I thought maybe I could go overseas and teach English, and that would be a way to be able to be learning more about language and culture and things like that. So I took one of those certificate programs, a month-long program, to be able to teach overseas. And I went to Nicaragua, and I taught there for 6 months. And I realized that I very much liked it, and I realized that perhaps I could turn it into something more, not just a 6-month thing, one and done, but actually turn it into a longer career. And so I came back to the States, and I got my master's at the School for International Training in Vermont, Brattleboro, Vermont. So I got my master's in the art of teaching. And then I moved to Colorado, and I worked for a nonprofit in Boulder, training volunteers to teach English. And together with that organization, we created a ESL curriculum for volunteers, so a textbook series. And then I got English language teaching fellowship in Peru. So I was working at the U.S. Embassy in Lima. And the government in Peru had made this overnight decision that all of the schools in the entire country needed to teach English. But it turns out that many of them were not ready to do that. And so I was hired to come down and work at the embassy to do teacher training. And so I did that for a couple of years. And I had a wonderful experience. It wasn't just Peru. I also was doing workshops in other countries in the area as well. So I super enjoyed that. But then I had my first child, my daughter, and originally I was imagining this international life where we would go on to various countries together. But once I had her, I actually changed my mind and thought that it would be nice to raise her together with my family here in Connecticut. So we switched gears and we came home. And then at that moment, I was thinking, okay, well, I already had my successful career and I was very happy with that, but maybe now it's my time to be a mom and focus on that. And I was prepared for that, but I was missing, the teaching. And so when the position came up at Three Rivers to teach English here, I thought, wow, this is just the combination of everything that I want, to be able to be a mom and to be near my family, but also to continue with the career that I'm very excited about. So here I am.
Wow. It worked out so nicely.
Worked out great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I always feel, that things, in retrospect, it seems like things always worked out as the way they intended to. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when you lay it all out like that, it seems like, what are the odds that everything just sort of fell into place so naturally?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm always curious about teaching English as a second language. So first of all, to get my ignorance a little bit mitigated, can you tell us the difference between ESL and ESOL and these sort of different terms so that I'm not using them incorrectly?
Sure. So ESL is English as a second language, and that's what people called it for a very long time. But I think then people realized that many English language learners already speak a second language, a third language. Sometimes it might be the fourth language that they're learning. And so the acronym has been changed to ESOL, which is English to Speakers of Other Languages, just to include everyone, no matter how many languages you already speak. So many of our students here at Three Rivers are Haitian, and they're already coming, definitely with French, definitely with Haitian Creole. This is at least their third language. A lot of people speak Spanish too, so ESOL is more accurate.
Got it. So it really is just like the practical realisticness of that they probably speak more than 2 languages.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. And so tell me because you mentioned that you got at least one, if not multiple credentials to specifically teach, what do we call these students? English
language learners.
English language learners, thank you. So what is it? I'm always fascinated by that because surely you don't speak every other language such that you can teach them. So like, what does it take? Because I don't feel like I could do it despite having a master's degree in English. So what does it take to teach English language learners? Is it really just understanding kind of general trends about how other languages work and learning how to translate, no pun intended, but what does it take?
Yeah, so it's true. I don't speak all of the languages of the students I have in my classes. I do speak Spanish, but I never speak Spanish in class just because if I'm not going to speak all the languages, why would I speak the one?
Yeah.
By the time a person gets to Three Rivers, their level of English is already very high. People finish adult ed in the area, the most advanced level of Norwich Adult Ed or New London Adult Education, and then they come here. So I'm not in a situation where we're not able to communicate at all. They're already able to communicate very well. And so I'm teaching them how to write a paper or how to give a formal academic presentation. That's the level that we're talking about here. However, I have had plenty of experience in other places teaching true beginners. And that looks like charades, a lot of pictures, a lot of acting out, a lot of being really silly, a lot of starting with very basic things and then just building slowly, bit by bit. It's important to find the things that people like to talk about. Oftentimes their families or food is really fun to talk about too. So finding the things that a person really wants to talk about, because then it makes them want to dig for the word and come up with a way to say it. So it's a lot of fun. I'm not teaching true beginners here at Three Rivers. That's just not the population of students that we have, but I have done that, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. So you're not working with students who cannot communicate in English at all, like you said.
Right.
You're kind of taking them to, is it preparing them for the work that happens in college composition?
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
So many of the students come because they want to get a degree. They want to go on to take English 1010 and beyond and earn their associate's degree. And so I'm getting them ready to be able to do that and be successful in their other classes. Other people come in, maybe they already have a degree. I have plenty of students in my classes who are already a doctor or a dentist or a teacher in their home country. And so they don't necessarily need another degree, but they want to be able to keep moving forward, and they have exhausted already all of the levels at adult education and they want to keep moving forward. So we have a combination of those students in our classes.
Yeah. I remember, at least in the past, we had several levels of these classes. Like, what do we call them?
ESOL classes.
ESOL classes, thank you. I don't know. It's just the exhaustion at this point in the semester, I think. So we used to have 060, 061, 063. Do we still have that variety?
We do have a variety, but they're different things now. So our first level is 1202. And even though I say first level, that's not a beginning level. They're already coming with some skills from other organizations. But for us, it's 1202, 1302, 1402, 1502, and then this 1010 ESOL support combination. So we still have a variety of levels. And one really good change with the consolidation is that the classes are now 6 credits each. They used to be 4, and now they're 6. So I get more time with those students. And another really positive change is that the students get elective credit for taking those courses. So they're actually adding up to something. It used to be that those courses didn't count for anything. And that's too bad. A person could be here literally for years without it adding up to anything. And so now they are adding up. And I think that that's a really important change.
Yeah. So having transitioned into teaching comp in tandem with the ESOL classes, what was the most challenging part of making that transition? Or was it super easy?
I think it was easier than I thought. And I think I enjoy it more than I thought. And another thing I enjoy is bringing those two groups of people together. So I would love for every student here at Three Rivers to study abroad, spend a semester in a different country. That would be awesome. A lot of people might do that. A lot of people might do the spring break trip, and that would be great too. And for other people, that might not be something that's going to happen. But we have so many people from different countries right here in our building that you can have some kind of experience that's different than your life experience right here. And so I try to bring people together either through a pen pal program, writing letters back and forth to each other, or through potlucks. We have a potluck at the end of each semester and try to get people together. And people are always amazed. Wow. Oh, I just walked by and I see you all in here salsa dancing. I didn't know that that was happening here. Yeah, it's all happening right here.
Yeah.
So I love to bring people together in that way.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's not something I wanted to say, like, I don't even think to do that just in terms of cross-pollinating between my own classes. But I do remember that my advisor at Sacred Heart when I was an undergrad was very diligent about whenever I was in her office and then like another student would come by, she would always say, "Do you know so-and-so?" And like would always be introducing people. And I feel like that's something I could do a much better job at. So
yeah. I mean, I recognize that people have different schedules and so it's not always possible, but whenever we can, I think it's really nice. An example with the pen pal program that I do, I have a student in 1010 who's traveling to Haiti soon, next year, maybe even this summer. And so I intentionally matched her up with a student in my ESOL class from Haiti. And now they've been writing letters back and forth. And the student from Haiti has literally invited her to come stay in her family's home in Haiti. And I don't know if it'll really happen or not. Let's see if the timing works out. But I think that's so cool that you've made this real life connection right here.
Yeah. How does the infrastructure for a pen pal program like the ones that you run work? Are they handwritten letters? Are they emailing back and forth?
They're not emailing. They're actually writing. Some people handwrite them. Some people type them. But they're delivering them to me, and then I give them to the other students.
Oh, cool! You're like the USPS.
Yeah, I am. Totally free. I don't charge anything. Mm-hmm. In the past, I did it with the senior center, so senior citizens in local areas. And that was cool because it was a different generation, and so that they had some good communication back and forth and learned about each other in that way. But I realized that it would be even more I thought it would be interesting to do it between my classes, and that's actually been. It has been. It's proven to be true. It's been really nice. And I haven't forced anyone to get together to actually meet each other. The assignment was just to write a pen pal letter and go back and forth a couple times. But some people have, and it's been easy to do because we're all right here. Mm-hmm. So that was a good change. I think I'll keep doing it that way.
Yeah. And what do they talk about? Do you tell them, like, you have to address family and whatever, or do you...
I'm pretty wide open. Mm-hmm. Write a friendly letter. And, some people do what they have to do to meet the assignment requirements, and that's fine. And other people seem to really enjoy it, and they keep going back and forth. And like I said, they end up getting together for coffee or something or really meeting each other. I try to... Since I know people in both classes, I look at their initial letters and I can make an intentional match, like I did with this student who's visiting Haiti and somebody who's from Haiti, and I could do that. And so I tried to find things that people had in common that they might be able to, run with. And so in some cases, it's worked out great.
Hmm. Is there a consistent thing that surprises the students?
The English 1010 students are often surprised that we have other students here from so many different places. And even outside of my actual classes, I have a map outside of my office door, a world map, and with stickers that indicate where people are from. And there are people from so many different countries. And I think that surprises a lot of people. Yeah,
that's so cool. Mm-hmm. Switching topics a little bit.
Okay.
Have you been to Indonesia lately?
Yes, I have.
Wow. What was that like?
Yeah, thanks. I had a really great time. So my husband and I took our kids to Indonesia. And my parents always took us on big international adventures. When I was growing up, they were both teachers too. And so they had the summer to do that. And they loved adventure travel. And so I guess I had that experience and wanted to continue that with my kids. And my kids are at a really fun age right now where they can do a lot, but they still like me, I think, in that little window of time. And so it was really amazing to be doing all these things that we were all sincerely enjoying together, like snorkeling or doing a sunrise hike or something, and everyone could do it, and we could all enjoy it together. So we had an amazing experience.
I'm so envious of your and other people's ability to embrace travel? Because it seems, as somebody who hasn't done much traveling, certainly not to the extent that you've done, it seems so, I don't know, overwhelming is the word, but like just the language barriers alone like makes me really nervous about like what do you do and that kind of thing. I mean, sure, to some degree you're just used to it, but what can you tell us about going to a foreign country that might reassure us? Because I don't know, it just seems like, wow, it's not just like going to London or something, you know?
I feel as if the more adventurous you are, the more excited people are to see you. And because they're just not used to seeing travelers as much in some places. And I think that people are, they want to show you their country and introduce you to their food and tell you about this and that. I think it's also really exciting to travel with kids, although sometimes exhausting, but also really nice because people do see other travelers, but it's less common to see families, and it makes you human, I think. And so two kids playing together who don't speak the same language at all could just play. They speak the language of play, and you don't really have to have words for that. And then that can make a nice, easy, natural connection with whoever they're playing with. And it just makes you human.
Yeah. How much preparation does one have to do for Indonesia, for example? Do you buy a phrase book?
I did. Okay. I did buy a phrase book. I bought the Lonely Planet travel guide as well. And so we did have our route mapped out or planned. But then I think the good thing about travel is you can also leave room for things to just happen. And so I think it's nice to have a combination of that. And on that trip we did. Yeah.
And what sort of accommodations does one choose, perhaps in your case, to stay in Indonesia? Do you stay with a family? Do you stay in hotels?
The unique thing about this particular trip and why we specifically chose Indonesia is that my cousin and her husband are living in Jakarta. They're working at the embassy there. And so we stayed with them for the first couple of days and the last couple of days. In between, we did a couple of Airbnbs in Bali. And then we also did like a live aboard boat experience. We were on a boat for 3 or 4 days. So those were our accommodations. And then also we had a layover in Tokyo. And so a few days before the trip, we thought, well, gosh, that's going to be a really long flight. And maybe we can extend the layover in Tokyo on the way home to break it up a bit. And so we did that. And then it was kind of like last minute, we're going to have 3 days in Tokyo. What are we going to do? And we kind of scrambled to figure that out. And it turned out to be really fun.
Yeah. I would love to go to Japan. I'm very drawn to, I don't know, Japanese aesthetics. Maybe it's from my martial arts career before I was an English teacher. But I would love to go to Japan. But again, it just seems so far away also. But again, just so overwhelming to be in a country that is so, I don't mean this in an insensitive way, but again, it just seems so much more removed from our culture as opposed to like going to England or something. Like I've been to Ireland. That's as far as I've been into Europe and that kind of thing. But I think that's so cool.
Yeah. People in my experience have been so kind and so welcoming. And I think it also makes you want to welcome people here as well. And welcome people who are visiting from other places and show them about our part of the world. And that's a fun way to learn about other places too, by traveling to other places, yes, but also by welcoming people here.
Yeah. How long was that trip, that whole excursion?
We were gone for 3 weeks, but it is quite a ways away. So there were some travel days in there. I felt like we were actually there for 2 weeks.
Okay. What is the sort of travel itinerary like? Is it a direct flight from...
No, we went to Chicago and then Tokyo and then Jakarta and then same thing on the way back, but with, the few day break in Tokyo and that worked out great.
And the kids, you said, are still excited about these adventures at this point in time.
We'll have to check in with them to be sure. My daughter seems to get sick most places that we go. And that was true on this trip too. She got very ill. I guess it was something that she ate. We were trying to be careful, but it happened. But so she was a trooper. She was a trooper. And I think if we were to ask her about her experience, I think she would still say that she had a good time.
Yeah, that's great. Hopefully it wasn't the duration of the trip that she wasn't feeling good.
It was a short time, and we didn't miss anything that we had wanted to do. Mm-hmm. It worked out.
Good. That's great. Wow. I looked up, I guess Indonesia is like the 4th most populous country, which surprised me because it doesn't feel like a country that I typically think of as being extremely populous. I think of it as like a little, because it's like an archipelago.
Well, there's so many islands.
Yeah.
So it's true, but there are so many of the islands that there are a lot of people added up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was interesting that in Jakarta, a lot of people are Muslim, and then we went to Bali, and a lot of people are Hindu. And so it was just interesting to see the differences of the people when you go to different islands or even different parts of different islands. There's just so much. We could go back to Indonesia several more times and I could still feel like I haven't seen it all.
I'm sure. How do you travel between islands?
We flew.
Mm-hmm. What kind of plane is that? Is that like a little prop plane?
I was expecting them to be little puddle jumpers, really tiny, but the planes that we were on were not that small. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Again, I'm very envious of your adventurousness. I've only just gotten into, because I've done, again, a little bit of travel in some sense, but I just did a little bit of traveling this semester for going to the TICA conference, which I think, have you been to the TICA conference?
I've been to it a couple of times, yes.
Yeah, that's the 2-year College English Association. It's a regional conference, and this year it was in Providence, so it wasn't a big deal. It was like, hour and 15 on the Amtrak. But there is, as an introverted person and as a home buddy, it always feels like it's a big to-do for me. But there was something very rewarding about the solo travel this time, and sort of just being alone and having a sense of being one tiny little person. And I went to New York, and I'm pretty comfortable with New York because we used to go fairly regularly. My aunt and uncle and cousin live there. But I had never been into Manhattan on foot alone and walking miles and miles like I did a few weeks ago. And I was really nervous about it because it's a big city. And last time I was in New York was the last time I had a panic attack. No offense, New York. Mm-hmm. But I was like, it would be so much easier to just not go and to just stay home. But I went, and it was really rewarding to sort of be like a tiny little person in this huge ecosystem.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. Yeah. One is that I love the idea of traveling independently. Of course, I love traveling with my family too. Absolutely. But traveling a big trip, but even just a short trip too, on your own is really special because then you're more likely to strike up a conversation with somebody else, or somebody's more likely to approach you and make a connection or something. And so there's something really cool about that. And I also think that those feelings that you have before you step out of your comfort zone and go to New York or go to Indonesia or even just walk yourself into a classroom, whatever the challenge is, we can have those thoughts in our head like, well, maybe I just shouldn't go. Maybe it would be easier if I didn't.
It would be easier.
Yeah, maybe it would be easier if I just didn't say yes to the podcast, But then you challenge yourself and you do it. And most of the time we feel so happy that we did it and we wouldn't want it any other way. And it can give us more confidence to push ourselves out of our comfort zones even more next time.
Yeah, that's what Tom and I were talking about a little bit on the previous episode, that the challenge zone, not the comfort zone, but the challenge zone is kind of the default zone. Mm-hmm. And it is really easy to want to live in the comfort zone most of the time. But being in the challenge zone is what it's all about. And that's exactly, I knew when I was thinking about the conference, for example, I knew how rewarding it was going to be on the train home, knowing that I had done it.
Yes.
And same for New York, too, having accomplished what I wanted to accomplish there and seen what I wanted to see. And now I have that forever, as opposed to just for the next 3 months thinking like, I bet I could have done it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't do it. Too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to congratulate students on the first day of class. Like, wow, a lot of people think about coming back to school, or a lot of people think about improving their English, but they can think of 100 reasons why they might not do that. And so getting through the doors, oftentimes the hardest part. Once you're here, okay, you did that. And now you can go home and feel good about it and come back next time.
Yeah. And it's never, I don't mean as bad as in everything's bad, but it always goes better than you think most
absolutely.
of the time. You described your family as being very blended.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So Kevin and I both came to the relationship with a daughter each from a previous marriage. And so that was 2 girls. And then we had Luca, of course, in my first year here. That's 3. And then we have a foster daughter, and she's been with us for 3 years. And 3 days after she came into our family, she had a baby, and now he is with us as well, and we're raising him together. So that's 5.
Yeah.
We also have mom and dad. We have converted my barn into an in-law apartment, and that will be finished. We've been working on this for a while, and it will be finished in the next couple of weeks. So they'll be there too.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What is the foster care experience like? What leads you to make that decision?
So what led us to that is that Kevin works for DCF, Department of Children and Families.
Okay.
And so he is often hearing about children who need a temporary home. It could be that their parents have gotten in an accident. It could be that they're not making good choices. It could be a variety of things. It could be just overnight, and it could be that a person needs a forever family. And so I would always hear him talking about children in need. And so I thought, well, maybe we should open up our home to somebody. And so we went through a training and got on the list, and we did a couple of very short-term situations. And then in each case, the child either was able to go back to their home or go with a family member or something like this. And that's what we were originally signed on to do, like short-term, younger than Luca is what we signed up for. But, life doesn't always go as we plan it. Yeah. And so they called us one day for a teenager from Guatemala who didn't speak any English. And that was not what we signed up for. But here I am thinking, wow, I have always been interested in learning Spanish. I was never really sure why. It was just an interest. And here I maybe now am faced with this opportunity to use this skill that I have for some reason to actually help somebody in a pretty major way. And so we said yes. And again, at that moment, it was going to be short term.
And what is short term?
Well, who knows? But what Kevin and I were thinking was a few weeks.
Okay.
And then we can help her get settled into a more permanent situation. But as I said, 3 days later, there we are in the delivery room helping her have this baby. And you don't go through that without feeling some kind of a connection to both of them. Mm-hmm. And so I think we both knew at that moment that this was our family. And that's how it feels.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. So with that experience, are you still like on the list of people, or is it possible the family can continue to grow? Obviously grandkids and stuff in the future, but
our house is full now. So I think that this is it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how do you like, is it your parents?
Yes.
And how do you like having them on the property?
So that is great. They even before they moved into our house, they lived only a half a mile away. Or I should say, I'm the one who bought a house a half a mile away from my childhood house. Yeah. So they have always been very close and an active part of our family, helping with the kids all of the time. I'm so grateful for that. And so it's not even that big of a change to have them in the barn because they were always very close. But I do feel as if my parents still like to travel and do a lot of things. And so now they can do that. They don't have to worry about who's going to mow their lawn and shoveling the driveway and things like that. They can go do that. So it's absolutely a win-win.
Mm-hmm. I thought of 2 follow-up questions. Do you find it hard to find solitude?
We can circle back to running. Because that's probably one reason why I really like running, is because it makes me feel good, not only physically, but in my own head.
Yeah.
And I can feel like all stirred up or stressed out or whatever, and then go for a run and feel, okay, I feel better. I feel good. I feel more clear.
Got it. I do want to talk about running because there was 50K, which I want to know what the heck that means in the context of running. But I'm pretty confident that there are also animals.
That's true. I'm an animal lover. And so goats are my favorite animal, and I had goats growing up, and I've had goats as an adult. It turns out that my parents are now moving into the barn, and so the goats have temporarily been moved to another location. But once we get that organized, I hope to bring the goats back into our world, because that is another place that I find solitude and peace. I love animals very much.
Yeah. What is it about goats?
I think they have a really great personality. They're mischievous and they're really fun to watch. They frolic around and they are escape artists, which can be tricky, but I appreciate their cleverness, I guess. So they have really nice personalities and they're a good size too. I wanted animals that my kids could help, be part of, participate in, and goats are an animal that children of all sizes can get involved with.
Yeah. We have a fairly large, quote unquote, fairly large property, but it's mostly wooded. But everybody always jokes about, oh, you should just get some goats, then you won't have to mow the lawn.
Yeah, it's true.
Is it true?
No, absolutely. The thing that you'd have to do at the beginning, though, is build a good fence because, like I said, they are escape artists. But that's not that hard. Once you do that, then it's done.
Yeah. Huh. I wonder, we also have bobcats.
Yes.
That would be... seems like a source of stress for the goats.
So you would need a fence and a shed. Yeah, that's true. We had donkeys for a while because donkeys are really good at keeping out predators like coyotes and things like that.
Wow.
Yes. And so you could consider that as well.
Because of their ferociousness or just their size?
They can kick. And so any kind of coyote or something that comes onto the property, they would kick it and it wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Wow.
So that's why we had the donkeys, to protect the goats and the other animals. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
They do. The reason that's past tense, though, don't have the donkeys anymore is because they are very loud. They're very loud. And the neighbors started to make comments about it. And at first I thought that, oh, they must like the donkeys. And then I realized, well, maybe what they're saying is that they don't. So.
Wow. Huh. And what does one do with one's donkeys when one no longer can care for them?
So there is a mini donkey farm in Ledyard near us.
Okay.
And so that's where we got the 2 donkeys from. And then after a couple of years, we decided that maybe we were ready to not have the donkeys anymore. And we reached out and they said, oh, we would happily take them back. And so
very nice.
That worked out fine.
So just goats at time present.
Goats and chickens.
Goats and chickens. Okay. And the chickens are, do they produce eggs? Is it a practical value?
Yep.
Okay.
They produce eggs.
They eat ticks, I think, which is another reason why.
Yes, it's true.
Thought about it.
That would be another really good idea for sure. And they're easy, probably easier than the goats because you just need a little coop.
Yeah. Well, we have neighbors down the street that have a chicken coop. Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready to do that. We have 2 kittens in the house as of August.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're a cat family and having a lot of fun with that.
Good.
Running. Why do it?
So, like I said, it makes me feel good inside. And there are definitely different stages of my life where I have run more or I have run less. And that's just, ages and stages. But when I do run, I feel good. And it's created a lot of really fun opportunities, like you were mentioning the 50K. So when Kevin, my husband, turned 50, he thought that it would be fun to run 50 kilometers to honor that birthday. And so it was something that we were kind of floating around. And then we had the idea, we were driving from his mom's house in West Greenwich, Rhode Island, to my mom and dad's house in Ledyard. And we thought, this is probably about 50K, about 32 miles, maybe. Let's just kind of clock it and see if it's close, and then we'll have a sense of it. And do you know what? It was exactly 50 kilometers. Exactly. And so we realized, okay, we're going to stop talking about this and we have to do it. And that will be our route. Originally, we were thinking about, okay, let's look for a local 50K in the area that's already being organized. But then when we discovered that idea, we thought, let's just do it ourselves. And so in advance, we packed a few places along the way. We packed like snacks and extra socks and shoes and things like that, water, of course, in various places along the way. And so we put the kids on the bus, drove to his mom's house in West Greenwich, ran home.
Wow.
And we made it in about 6 hours, I think. And we got home in time to catch the kids off the bus. And it was really fun. And it was really fun to do it together and just have that experience. And now every time, we're running that route, we're always thinking about, oh, well, when we were at this point, this is how we were feeling, or this is what we were saying. And I don't think I will do that again for my 50th birthday. Uh-huh. Once was good.
Yeah.
But maybe I can think of something else interesting.
Sure.
To honor it at some point.
Was there much training required? It seems like you're an experienced runner, but was there did you have to work up to?
Yeah, you have to work up. And that's the hard part when you have little kids, especially, like just the time alone to do the training. So that was the hardest part. But we did it, and I'm sure glad that we did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you eat anything really good after running that much?
Yes. Yeah, there was definitely some good food and beverage to follow that race. Yes.
Yeah. Do you listen to anything when you run by yourself?
I listen to nothing. I like to just listen to the birds chirping and be in nature and think about my own thoughts. And I think that that's different than a lot of people, but that's the way I do it.
It's so easy with wireless earbuds and things like that, and just endless numbers of podcasts and music to listen to pretty much always have things in your ears. I resisted for years being a 10,000 steps a day person, and just this summer I finally got the 10,000 steps a day bug. And I have tried to be really intentional in specifically not listening to things during that walking time, because I think it is really important. I think we're going to get into this. I think it is really important to have that unstimulated time, or that time where your brain is free from input. Because it's so easy to be constantly receiving signal and or noise from everything. So I support the empty ears. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, you were asking a minute ago about when I get my solitude, and I think even just those minutes, certainly running, but also even the car ride home, just sometimes I don't even turn on anything. I just want it to be quiet for a minute.
Yeah. Have you done an ISW?
Yes.
An instructional skills workshop?
Yes, I did.
This is, for people listening, this is a 3.5-day teaching intensive where you have to design and deliver 3 10-minute miniature lessons. And I remember doing my ISW as a participant at Manchester in 2019.
Okay.
Over the summer. And I remember deliberately choosing to do what you just described in commuting back and forth to the Manchester campus, which was to not listen to anything, because it's such an intense professional development experience, because you've got 3 lessons to design and practice and think about and think back on and reflect on and everything. And it was just so all-consuming that I deliberately chose not to listen to anything in the car, just so my brain could process it. And I think that made all the difference in that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We do need processing time.
It's so easy to fill the boredom with screens and or inputs of visual or auditory things. And a lot of times, because I'm a big podcast person, but I will frequently notice, because it takes me 27 minutes to get to campus, and I will frequently notice, like, a podcast will be going, but I will not be listening to the podcast because I'll be thinking about this, that, other thing, and I will deliberately switch over to music, or more rarely switch to nothing, because I don't need input constantly. You really have to carve out that non-input time.
Right. You have to plan for it. You have to be intentional about it, because it's just out there. There's so much out there. You have to really be intentional about pausing that for a moment and being alone with your own thoughts.
Yeah. You mentioned that one of your struggles is concerns about our relationship with our phones and how that interacts, how that affects our ability to interact with one another. Is this something that you struggle with for yourself, or is it something that you struggle with seeing it in everybody else?
Yeah. So here's an example. My daughter came out of dance class and all the parents were in the waiting room. And she came out halfway through the class because she had to use the bathroom. And she looked around and she came over and she said, Mom, is everybody okay? Is everything okay? And I said, yeah, everything's okay. Why? And she said, well, everyone's looking on their phone. I thought there was some kind of emergency. I thought something was wrong. And nothing was wrong. It's just that that's what people do. And it made me think about it. It made me look around every time you're in the waiting room of a dentist's office, or even at your kid's softball game or whatever. You look around and that's what everybody is doing. And you think, wow, are we so busy that we can't put it down while we watch our kid play baseball? And in my classes, I tell the students on the first day of class, I say, we're going to go ahead and take a vacation from our phones while we're in this room together. And I don't just mean once I start talking. I literally mean, like, from the moment you walk into the room, this is a phone-free zone, because you don't want to miss out on a chance to sit down next to somebody and strike up a small talk chit chat. And who knows, that could turn into a friendship, or you could be talking about something that, hear about something that you didn't know about before, and you would miss those opportunities if everyone's just looking at the phone. And I think that I don't think students have a problem with it. I really don't. Maybe the student listeners can call in and let me know if I'm wrong, but but I think that people appreciate the vacation from the phone. I think if you're the only one not on your phone, yeah, like my daughter right now, she probably is right about the fact that she's the only one in 7th grade who doesn't have a phone. She may be right, and that's difficult, and I feel bad about that, but that is my decision. But students in class, if I say I don't want anyone to be on their phone right now, if nobody's on their phone, then it feels okay. Great. I can just appreciate this opportunity to be in the present moment, and most people seem to be good with it. You know what a lot of students tell me? They say, we are fine about that. It's our parents who struggle with it even more than we do. And I don't think they're wrong. So I think that, based on my own observations, the things that I've just mentioned, I don't think that they're wrong. And so I think that all of us, I don't just mean our students or my 7th grader, I think all of us need to be intentional about our phone use. And is it a useful tool? Absolutely. But we need to own the phone. It doesn't own us. And we can manage that in the way that works for us and what we really want to get out of it.
Yeah. It's just so insidious and so tempting, because the phone doesn't even need to, like, YouTube is the one for me, because the problem for me, because I'm effectively off all social media at this point, but YouTube is the real temptress, because to acknowledge there is so much interesting stuff and so much great stuff on YouTube to look at, but the problem is that it becomes a default activity. Whether it's the phone in general or YouTube or a specific website, TikTok or whatever, you know that when you go to it, it will give you something to look at. But we don't go there intentionally because I need to find something or I need to look something up. It's just like, well, I have 2 seconds of boredom, so I know if I go to YouTube, it will show me something, and it'll be something that I'm into because it knows what I'm into. But yeah, I try to, like, I don't have the YouTube app on my phone, and I actually had to block youtube.com because I would just type in youtube.com and it auto-completes, and there's like recommended things right there, and I'm going to be into it because YouTube knows what I like.
Sure.
But yeah, there's just an endless number of things that we want to look at, and it's so challenging to be comfortable with the discomfort of not having any stimuli.
It's true. Fight through that. And are there moments where at the end of the day, we just want to zone out and look at something like that?
Yeah.
Sure. I'm not saying it's always wrong, but as long as that's what our decision is, yes, I would like to sit down and dedicate a half an hour to just mindlessness. Okay, fine. But if we're thinking that what we want to do is something different than that we need to control our decisions and do something else.
Yeah, it just becomes the default activity. The example I always use in class is that you get in line at the grocery store and there's like one person in front of you and it's like, well, phone comes out and you're
in it.
Yeah, and you're in it and scrolling. And again, I don't have any social media apps or even distracting apps on my phone, but there's still a handful of websites that I cycle between, especially in an election year. The nature of those sites being that they're constantly posting something new.
Sure.
Not even maliciously, but just that's because this is the world we live in.
That's what's going on.
Yeah.
So even earbuds. So I was in CVS the other day and I saw this delivery person walk into CVS and it looked like he was maybe interested in the girl who was behind the counter. This was just my own observation. And so he said, he walked over and dropped the box and he said hello to her. And she didn't catch it because she had her earbuds in. And so then he dropped the box and he turned around and walked out. But then she looked up and she saw him. She finally noticed him. And she said something to him, hey, what's up? And he missed it because he was plugged in too. And I'm standing there thinking, you know what? I will just say nothing and mind my own business. But you two just missed out on a potential connection there. So I don't know.
Yeah. I keep my phone in my bag, not in my pocket when I'm on campus, which makes a huge difference. Because again, it's so easy to just default. What else do? I try to keep my phone at one spot at home. And go to it when I need it.
When you want it. Yeah.
When you want
those seem like good strategies.
Yeah. It's really hard to do though. I don't know. It's all of the knowledge that the human race has ever created is all
right
just
there.
in one place instantly. I know you are not a music fan, and I know you specifically said that's not going to be a good conversation topic, but what I'm fascinated about is as a music fan, it fascinates me because I know people like this who aren't particularly into music, which fascinates me because it feels like not being particularly into movies or not being particularly into books. It's like there's so many different kinds.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, where does that come from, or what is it like to be a person who's not super into music?
Yeah. I'm not going to say I don't like music or I'm not into music, but I can be happy with whatever is on. And so Kevin is usually the DJ at our house, and whatever he puts on is usually good. So yeah, I'm just, I guess, open to whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. I play the same role in our household because Abby is a big music fan and loves to sing in the shower and elsewhere. But and not even intentionally, but just I'm the one that decides what we listen to in the car, and she likes everything that I put on. But yeah, it fascinates me that you can be so open to things, because I have strong opinions about things. I try to be more open the older I get, but yeah, that's cool. Vicki, I really appreciate you being here and your time, and it's so nice to hang out. We always like to end the show with a recommendation for the listeners, something you just think they should check out, or a mindset you think they should adopt, or anything that you wanna close with.
Okay, great. So I mentioned earlier about this program at Otis Library, the local public library here in Norwich. They are looking for volunteers to teach conversation classes. And the good thing about those classes, the good thing for people in the community, is that they're drop-in classes. Sometimes people don't have a set schedule, and so they might not be able to enroll in a class like ours where you have to be available every Monday and Wednesday or whatever. But they could pop in at a time that's right for them. And so there's a need for that in the community. Like I was saying, that there's so many English language learners looking for classes, and that fits the need. And so recently I have been facilitating volunteer training workshops for people who might want to help out. And so I encourage anyone, my invitation is anyone who's interested in helping out. You don't have to have previous experience. You don't even have to commit to doing it. If you want to just come to a workshop and see what it's all about, everyone's invited. Similarly, if you want to just come check out the classes that we have here at Three Rivers, open door policy, everyone is always invited to come and check out a class. Or if they want to connect with the students that we have in the class and do a little language exchange, I certainly have people who would be open to that too. So I guess it's an open invitation to volunteer for English conversation classes or just come check out the classes and the students that we have here at Three Rivers.
Very cool. Are the Otis Public Library classes, is that people who are interested in dipping their toe into the teaching side of English language learners, or is it more for students who might be interested in taking English language learning classes?
Well, I'm speaking about people who might be interested in volunteering to teach.
Okay.
So if you're a person who is interested in becoming a teacher, it would be a great resume builder and good experience. But even if that's not your path, even if you just want to do something in the community, I mean, volunteering is always a win-win, right? You help somebody else, but it also always turns out that it makes you feel good too. And so it's really open to anyone who might want to get involved.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Vicki, very much for being here. It was great to get to hang out in a little more detail, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been really fun. Thank you.
And if you enjoyed the show, please do tell somebody else to listen to it. Thank you for listening, and please share it with somebody. So until next time, thanks.
He likes Rush a lot more than I do. But
you're going to bring up Rush now. We're an hour in, and you are going to bring up one of my favorite bands of all time?
Well, you could have a much more interesting conversation with him about that than me.
Episode 9.
Okay, schedule it.